This session is on method overriding. So before going into overriding, we already covered what is overloading. So overloading happens within the class. What do you mean by overloading is it will be having the same name. The methods will have the same name but with different number of arguments or different types of arguments. That is called overloading a method. What do you mean by overriding is it will happen between the parent class and the child class. So it happens only with the inheritance. It will not happen within the same class. So if a parent class is defining a method, let's say void foo, the child class will define the same method like void foo. So why do we need to do that? In case of going for inheritances, I want to reuse the parent class method. But why should I redefine the parent class method here? That's because in some situations you don't want to use the parent class implementation. So the child decides, I will, let's say parent class is having like five methods and the child class wants to use four of the methods, and there is one method in the parent class which it does not need to reuse it. Instead it wants to define its own method. So there we have the overriding concept. So overriding, the subclass has the same method declaration as the parent class. So there is no difference in the number of arguments, there is no difference in the type of arguments. It is going to be exactly same like the parent class method. Subclass provides specific implementation instead of reusing the implementation from the parent class. So it just wants to give its own implementation for certain methods. May not be not all the methods of the parent class, but certain methods it wants to give its own implementation. So Java provides a way for doing that. That is nothing but overriding. Some of the examples we'll see is, let's say a college, a general college is going to have a standard rules for admitting the students. So you can have a XYZ college which is extending from the college, and now this XYZ college does not want to follow the standard rules. It wants to follow its own rules. So what they can do is they can actually override the rules method and provides their own rules actually. So let's say they wanted people to admit who got more than 75% into the college, rather than just getting a pass mark, which is defined by the standard rules. And the next example is a builder builds standard models and gives to his customers. So a customer can go ahead and buy the standard model, which will be the same, just like given for any other user. The other thing is he can customize it. Basically, he wants to put a different word or different the different way he wants to build it actually. Let's say instead of 4 bedroom he wants to add one more room, like that. He can customize basically the standard models. Here what he's doing is overriding the standard definition. So next thing is pizza with customizations. So each customer can order a pizza and he can add his own customizations there. So these are all examples of overriding. So the next section is on the rules. I hope this rules you may not be clearly understanding till the package video and exception handling videos are built. So we'll be doing that in the next few days. But before you got a good understanding of exception handling and the packages, it's going to be difficult to understand this rules part of it. So access modifiers of the overriding method cannot be more restrictive. So here what they mean is, let's say the parent class is having a protected method. If the parent class is having the protected method, the child class can have the overridden method of the child class can be public, but it cannot be default. It cannot be having more restrictive method than defined in the parent class. Second rule is overriding method must have the same return type. So that we already know. Basically, if the parent class is having the return type is void, the child class will also have the return type as void. There is one variations to this from Java 5. They are going to support covariant type. What do you mean by covariant type is, let's say the parent class is returning an employee object. The method is returning employee object, and in the child class you'll be having the same employee object being returned actually. So that is okay, but The child class can also return a manager object, which is a subclass of employee object, which is allowed and it is considered as overriding. Third rule, if the superclass overridden method does not throw an exception, subclass overriding method can only throw the unchecked exception. So let's say we have a superclass method saying void foo. It is not throwing any exception. The subclass method also should be void foo and it should not throw any exception. Either it can be like that or the subclass method can throw an exception, but it should not be a checked exception. So it can say void foo throws runtime exception or any subtype of runtime exception, but not void foo throws exception is not allowed. If the superclass is throwing an exception, let's say that the superclass throws void foo throws exception. In the subclass, I have these options. Either I can throw the same throws exception, or I can say throws subclass of that exception. Maybe it is IO exception. Throws IO exception, I can do it. Or I don't need to throw exception. So I can do these things. But I cannot throw the parent class of exception in the overridden method. So I cannot say throws throwable here. Following methods cannot be overridden. So you cannot override a final method. You cannot override a static method because static is associated to class, as you know. The static methods cannot be even inherited. So there is no concept of overriding. It comes into static. And you cannot override the private methods and you cannot override abstract methods as well. We'll talk about abstract, private in the subsequent sessions. Okay, so an example, let's say we have a bank. The bank is having two methods, get monthly payment and display info. So what this get monthly payment is going to give is, like if a customer approaches a bank and say I wanted to get a loan of $4,000 and I will be repaying in 4 years, any general bank will be able to say what is the EMI or what is the monthly payment he will be paying each month so that he can complete the loan by the specified years. So the variable arguments is going to be the amount you wanted to get the loan and the number of years. And what bank is going to do calculations is with the rate. So each bank rate may be different. It's going to play around with the rate and it is going to give you the monthly EMI or monthly payment that you will be making. There's one more method which is called display info, and this display info is going to just display the bank information. That's it. Now there are two banks which is going to extend from the bank. One is Bank of America, BOA, and the other bank is Chase, the other bank is Citi. Now if you see here, what Bank of America has done is Bank of America has a get monthly payment method, which is something overriding the bank's get monthly payment method, because it wants to give its own implementation. It doesn't want to follow the bank's implementation, a general implementation. It wants to attract the customer, so it is going to provide either lesser rates if they get a bigger loan, or if their tenure is more, they wanted to give a better rates for the customers. So they wanted to override the method get monthly payment, and they don't want to override the method display info because they want to reuse the method from the bank class. Along with the get monthly payment method, they also have one more method which is called online check deposit. So this is very particular to the Bank of America method, Bank of America class. And then coming to the Chase class, they just override the get monthly payment. Again, they wanted to attract the customers and they wanted to give some lesser rates depending upon some criteria. Whereas Citibank doesn't want to follow they just wanted to follow the bank's general algorithm for giving the monthly payment. They don't want to override it. And they have their own specific method, which is transfer balance, which is not done by the other banks. So they have their own specific methods called transfer balance. So in this scenario, if you make a call, say like BOA, you create a Bank of America object and you have the Bank of America reference. So here Bank of America BOA B is equals new BOA. And if you say B dot get monthly payment, and if you pass $2,000 in 4 years, what is going to happen is it is going to call the Bank of America get monthly payment method, not the bank's get monthly payment method, because you are having the object of Bank of America. And when you call b.displayInfo, what is going to happen? The display info is going to be called from Bank of America, but there is no such method in Bank of America, so it is going to get it from the bank. As you know, inheritance is going to reuse the parent class methods. So here in this display info, it is kind of reusing the parent class methods. And when you call b.online check deposit, it is a function, it is a behavior which is only for Bank of America. So you are having the Bank of America object and you are just calling b.online check deposit, which is going to call the online check deposit of the Bank of America class. So here the important point is the get monthly payment, which is going to not call the bank's method, but it is going to call the Bank of America's method, the overridden method, because you have Bank of America object here. Next, let's say we have created a class, we created an object for city. So city C is equals new city and then C dot get monthly payment 4,000 in 3 years. So now again, what is going to happen here is get monthly payment, it is going to try to call the get monthly payment method in the city class, but there is no such method. So what is it going to do? It is going to call the parent class method, which is get monthly payment from the bank. So in this case, it is going to execute the bank's get monthly payment as standard algorithm for getting the monthly payment. Whereas when you call c.transfer balance, that method is a specific method for city and it is going to get called. Okay, let's see the same example, but here instead of BOA B is equals new BOA, we are going to do it in a different way. So instead, if you notice, we had instead of BOA B is equals new BOA, here we say bank B is equals new BOA. So the difference here is instead of assigning the same class object, the reference here is going to be bank's reference, which is the superclass reference. Now the superclass reference is pointing to the subclass object. Object is still Bank of America object, but the reference is bank's reference. So I can always have a superclass reference point to a subclass object. So this is actually called as runtime polymorphism. So basically when you run the program, that is the time the program knows whether it is going to get a Bank of America object or going to get a Chase object or a City object. But all of them are bank objects, so we can still have bank reference to point to any of this subclass objects. So here we say bank B is equals new BOA. This means a Bank of America object, a superclass reference is pointing to the subclass objects. So here the superclass reference is bank, subclass object is Bank of America. So what is going to happen if you do now, if you call b.get monthly payment and say 2000,4, again it is going to be dependent on the object. So what object you are having, it is Bank of America object, so it is going to call the method get monthly payment of Bank of America class and not the bank's class, because it always depends upon what objects you are creating. So here you have created not a bank object, you have created a Bank of America object, but still the reference is the bank reference actually, which is the superclass reference. So even though the reference is bank reference, it is going to call the overridden method, which is Bank of America's method. Next, if you call displayInfo method, now again displayInfo method is also going to call the Bank of America's displayInfo method, but Bank of America does not have anything, so it is going to call the bank's displayInfo method. Okay, so what happens if I call b.online check deposit? Here is the problem. So I'm using Bank of America object only, that is clear, but whether I'm going to get Bank of America object or Chase object, I will be knowing only when I run the program. But this check is going to happen at the compile time itself. So when I say B, what is B referring to? B is a bank reference. Do bank have any online check deposit method? Bank does not have an online check deposit method. So that means it is going to fail in the compile time, saying that there is no online check deposit method in the bank, so you cannot call it. Even though you have at runtime you are having Bank of America object which has this method. But since you are using bank reference to hold the Bank of America object, you can only use whatever methods that has been defined in the bank. So any specific methods done in the child class cannot be called with the superclass reference. the superclass reference can call only the methods that is defined in the superclass, not any methods that is defined in the child class. So those can be called only with the help of child class references. So same case with C, Citibank. You can say bank C is equal to new city. I'm having a superclass reference to subclass objects. Here, if I call c.get monthly payment, what is going to happen? Again, get monthly payment is not present in the city class. That is the reason it is going to get it from the bank class. But still, city object is the one which is created, right? So still, it is going to call Citibank's get monthly payment. Since we have not overridden this method in that, it is going to call the banks class implementation. And now, when you call c.transfer balance, it is going to fail because transfer balance is a method present in Citibank. For that, you have to have a city reference, not a bank reference. So what it concludes is only methods available in the bank class can be called by using the bank reference. If you use a bank reference, you can call only the methods defined in the bank class, not any other class. But actually, whether it is going to call the bank class get monthly payment or the subclass monthly payment, that depends upon the objects it is getting at the runtime. So the advantages of overriding is overriding happens at runtime, as we discussed. So till running the program, it does not know whether the object is, which object is going to be getting created. So let's see an example here. Let's use a scanner function. Scanner is nothing but to get help you to get input from the user, and it's asking for entering a bank name. So if you give the bank name as Chase, if bank name dot equals Chase, B is equal to new Chase, where B is nothing but the bank reference. So you are going to get a bank reference to be assigned with Chase object if the user gives Chase as the input. He is going to get a Bank of America object if the user gives BOA there. So now you would understand, like we know the bank B reference does not know till you run this program, it does not know whether you are going to get a Bank of America object or a Chase object. And when you call b.get monthly payment, you don't know at this point of time when you have this program, when you write this program, you don't know which one get monthly payment is going to get called, whether it is going to call a Chase monthly payment or a Bank of America monthly payment. We will know it. We will not know it. We will know it only when you run the program and the user supplied the input. So this is basically called the runtime polymorphism. So the object will be resolved only at the runtime, but you can write the program using the superclass reference so that you don't need to modify that program. So I will still have b.get monthly. I don't want to create Chase C equal to new Chase of, and then BOA B is equal to new BOA of, and then call if Chase equal to this, do this like that. I don't need to do it. I just need to make sure that I will go ahead and call b.get monthly payment method, and B will be pointing to any of its subclass objects. It can be a bank object, it can be a Chase object, it can be city object, or any objects that you are going to newly introduce can be easily called with this. So user can supply Chase or BOA at runtime. Based on that, corresponding object is getting created, and at runtime B can get Chase object or a BOA object. Still, the call b.get monthly payment does not change, as it is going to call the method with the superclass reference. So that is the advantage of using the superclass reference here. Okay, so you don't need to write any code changes based on the objects you are going to get. You are going to call the same methods, and which method this one is going to call, that depends upon what is the object you are going to receive. If it is receiving the Chase object, it is going to call the Chase method, but I don't need to create Chase reference and call that. I can use the superclass reference and call that. So that's the major advantage you get with by using the superclass references. So let's see the same program in Eclipse. Let me open a new class here. So let me make it as polymorphism. The package is polymorphism. We'll talk about this. So I'll have the bank class. So this bank class, let's say it is having name of the bank, then it's defining the methods like and you can also have something like address of the bank, you can have some methods like get monthly payment. So since it is get, I will make it as double get monthly payment. So this is the method, and this takes two arguments. One is the amount the customer wants to get as a loan, and then the years, when how much, in how many years he'll be able to repay it. So the standard calculation will be, let's take a not a compound interest calculation. Let's keep it simple. We'll have the simple interest calculation. So what you will do is the interest will be double equal to PNR by 100, which is amount into years, amount into years into rate. So the rate will be, let's say the bank is giving 10% actually. By default, the interest rate is 10% for a general bank. Okay, so let's have like this, and then we'll move on. So interest equal to amount into years into 10 by 100. Okay, so we got the interest. Now this will give us like how many interest, this, I mean, for this amount and for this year, how much total interest you will be paying. Now how would you add it? Like amount plus interest. So the total amount he will end up paying is amount plus interest here. And if I wanted to calculate, this is for the total amount, like if he's paying 4,000 in 3 years, so let's say the interest comes as 500, so the total amount will be 4,500 that he will end up in paying in 3 years. But what I need is, what is the monthly payment he needs to make, right? So for monthly payment, I will say T is equals, now the total amount we are having divided by 12 into the years. So number of years into 12 will give you the monthly payment. So just return this T. So you're going to return this value T. So this is the same logic we are going to employ for other methods also. Let's say, so this is our, let me correct the spelling here. So this is a general bank's implementation of the get monthly payment method. So it is also having another method which is not doing anything, just displaying the information about the bank. So display info. So this is basically printing this out, name of the bank and address of the bank. Okay, so this is our parent class implementation. Now let's go with the inheritance, and we'll create some child classes. New class, we'll have Bank of America. So what this Bank of America is going to do is, they wanted to override this implementation. So they just wanted to copy this method. They want to provide its own implementation. They don't want to use this implementation. They want to give a own implementation. So let me paste this. Now, so here in a general bank, they made the rate as 10, right? It's the general bank's implementation. So they had it as the rate as 10. Now, but Bank of America wants to deal this differently. They wanted to adjust the rate based on the criteria that user gives. So for example, if the amount of loan the user wants is going to be greater than $5,000, then they wanted to give some attractive rates. So they want to revise their rates to say 9%. Otherwise, it is going to remain as 10% actually, just like a regular bank rate. But they just wanted to attract the customer, and they wanted to give them 9% if they ask for a loan amount greater than 5,000. So this is the Bank of America implementation of this EMI method, I mean get monthly payment method. And they don't want to implement anything on the display info method, say they move on. So the next class is going to be our chase class. So look at this. So they are also rewriting this method or overriding this method. But Chase wants to do it in a different way compared to Bank of America. So Bank of America did, when the amount is greater than 5,000, they are improving this rate. So what Chase wants to do is they wanted to adjust the rate again. So the default rate is 10%, but if the user wants to repay that in a longer years, say years is greater than 5, then they wanted to adjust the rate and give them a better option, like 8.5%. So here you make it as a rate. So the default will be 10%, but if the user's criteria is going to be, he's going to have this loan for more years, then they wanted to keep the rate low. So you can write like this in number of implementations for each bank, and they can adjust the parameters and give you based on your criteria. So let me create one more class, which is city, and city does not want to do anything. They want to keep, just they have created a, I missed one step in all these things. I need to extend, so that I get the, so that I can assign the superclass variable, superclass reference basically. So BOA extends bank, Chase extends bank, and city extends bank. So when city extends bank, it gets defaultly all the behavior of the bank. So now let's do a test class here. So I have a customer, I have a main method. So this customer wants to get some loan. So he goes to different banks. So let's say his amount for loan is going to be $6,000, and he wants to pay it in 4 years. Now he wants to calculate what would be his monthly payment in each of this bank. So let's say sys out. So let's create some objects here. So bank B, and let's get the inputs from the user so that it's easy for us to. Scanner is equals new scanner of. You can say system dot in. This means you are getting the input from the keyboard. Scanner is a class which helps you to connect to the input sources and get the value from the input actually. So it can be a file, it can be a keyboard, or whatever it is. So this scanner is a class written by Java, and system.in is something. It is going to connect to your input, which is the keyboard actually. So this is the constructor of scanner class. So but this scanner is not available as you see here. So I need to import it. So if you hover it, you will see import scanner java.util. Just click on this, you will get this scanner class here. Now I say system.out.println. I'm asking enter the bank name. Okay, so now it's going to print in the console, enter the bank, and then now we can supply the bank. How do we get that? Is string bank name equal to s dot next. So this is going to get the next input from the keyboard, which is going to be a string input, and once it gets it, it's going to assign that to the bank name. Now we are going to use the runtime polymorphism here. So we are going to check whether the bank name dot equals is a method. We will talk about this later in the string sessions, but assume now it is not double equal to. I'm going to use equals method. If bank name is equal to Chase, if the user supplies Chase, we are going to create a Chase object and assign it to the bank reference. Else if the bank name dot equals Bank of America. So here we are going to say B is equals new BOA here. I put Chase, should be Chase because the user is supplying Chase. Okay. Let's be capital C. Class name. Okay. So now else, if the user has not supplied any of these things, I can say invalid argument and I can stop it there. Else is out, invalid. Oops. Okay. So now let's invalid input, and I don't want to continue this program, so I can say system.exit. So I don't want to really continue this program, so I can say exit. System.exit means it is going to stop there and going to come out of the program. Actually, it's going to terminate the execution. Now I want to print what is the amount, right? So I will say b.get monthly payment, and the amount and years I have already entered here, 6004. Even you can collect that as an input from the scanner actually, but I just wanted to keep it the same amount. Oh, okay, so I should initialize this variable. Let's have it as null here. Okay, so now you can run this program. It's going to ask the bank name, so you can give Chase. You get, for this amount 6004, you are going to pay $175 as a monthly payment to complete this loan. Let's say you want to choose Bank of America, so you'll pay only $170. So here the better option is going for Bank of America. So let's say I'm going to give it for 6 years tenure. Now let's see which one is offering a good amount. So you can say Chase, it's giving 125.83, which is good. And if I go with, if I run this program again and go with, I'm sorry, and go with Chase, sorry, Bank of America, it's going to give $128. So now the Chase is better than Bank of America since you gave the years as more. So you can also include a else if condition for Citibank and perform this operation. Currently, if you give any other bank or just give some random bank, it's going to show an error, invalid input, and exit the program. So this is going to this is the demonstration of overriding. So you can try some various examples like this where there is a necessity for the child class to override the behavior of the parent class. It doesn't need to follow the same behavior, and it needs to override the behavior of the parent class. In all the scenarios, if you wanted to use b.displayInfo, which is a we have not overridden this method. That means it is going to print it from the parent class. So let me run this. It's going to print anyways null for you, but just to make you understand that it is calling the displayInfo method of bank class. Since we have not supplied name and address, it is printing null for us.